in total. It's unclear at this stage if it was somebody else. It's unclear, but clearly there will be arrivals over the course of the next few hours into the evening. Edward's certainly in one of those vehicles. The Duke of Cambridge we saw arriving at Edinburgh Airport, so if he wasn't in that particular convoy of 4, he won't be far away. Prince Charles was already on the estate, of course. He has been there. He's actually been there in recent weeks. Today, he has spent several hours behind the gates of the Balmoral estate. He's been in the company of his mother on and off over the past few weeks. You'll remember that on Saturday, he took her place at the Braemar gathering. And on Saturday itself, I know that before that outing in the late afternoon, he had been in the company of his mother for several hours. His mother, of course, who was in good form in recent days and has been in recent weeks in a part of the world where she feels very comfortable. It is, she enjoys privacy. She enjoys the opportunity to be herself with her family away from the public gaze. And that is a large part of the attraction for her here at Balmoral. People close to the royal family talk about her being comfortable, having picnics, enjoying barbecues with the family, doing the washing up and so on. It's a secluded part of Aberdeenshire where she enjoys privacy, and at this time in particular, perhaps something that's the family around her will value. So we've seen arrivals. Prince Charles was already inside Balmoral. Edward is here. Indeed, Prince Charles, the presence of Prince Charles at Balmoral was the first indicator today that things weren't quite right. He was due to attend an occasion in Lanarkshire. It was a royal visit. That was cancelled, and that was the first indication that perhaps there was something rather more pressing for him and his time closer to his home in Balmoral. So there will be arrivals by car. Aberdeen Airport, the route between Aberdeen Airport and Balmoral, the A93, is a well-worn path for the Royals, particularly at this time of year. So we're expecting to see more. Harry will be among them as the evening progresses, and we'll see more arrivals here. But in that convoy of 4, the family has begun to gather. Edward was in that convoy, possibly others will confirm in due course.
James, for the moment, thank you.
Well, here outside Buckingham Palace, the world's press are gathering, and many tourists and visitors standing outside the gates of Buckingham Palace awaiting news. Let's speak to our royal correspondent, Rhiannon Mills. And Rhiannon, at the moment, we have simply that statement concerning the Queen's health and the knowledge that so many members of the royal family are gathering at Balmoral.
And yes, interesting, Dermot, there that you should talk about the crowds gathering outside of Buckingham Palace. Of course, at any time of year, you're going to have a crowd there. Tourists always flock there when they come to London. But I think it is a reminder that for many, this news will come as a great concern, not least because it is hugely unusual that the royal family should decide to allow the officials at Buckingham Palace to give us any real details about the Queen's health. So I think the fact that, what was it, around 12:30 this lunchtime, that we were told that doctors were so concerned about Her Majesty's health that they recommended that she should stay under medical supervision. Immediately, I think for those of us who follow the royal family closely, it did set alarm bells and it did raise concern. The palace also saying that at the moment she remains comfortable and she is at Balmoral. There were some suggestions that potentially she'd had a fall, but they were quick to kind of shut down that speculation. But also very quickly, they told us that the family had been told that she was deemed to need this medical supervision, and also that they were heading to Balmoral, which again, of course, only elevates those concerns for the Queen's health. In some ways, though, I think what is quite a shock in terms of hearing this news is the fact that it was only, on Tuesday that we saw the Queen front and centre, once again, carrying out one of her key constitutional roles. And certainly in the last few weeks, it was being made very clear that the Queen was determined that she would still be the one who would be there to say farewell to Boris Johnson, her 14th Prime Minister, as he tendered his resignation, and then subsequently welcome her 15th Prime Minister, Liz Truss. Of course, it was decided, as has sometimes been the case, that plans and logistics would have to be changed because the Queen, or doctors decided ultimately that the Queen wasn't able to make that journey down to London, that simply it would be foolish for her to do that. And so they wanted to make sure that a plan was in place to make sure that the Queen knew what she was doing and also her outgoing and incoming Prime Minister. But it did mean that we have got those photographs, very recent photographs of the Queen beaming from ear to ear as she met Liz Truss and began what is a very important relationship, of course, for any new Prime Minister. I think also for both the outgoing Prime Minister and palace officials, and no doubt the Queen herself, it was important that we saw her that day. We haven't actually seen the Queen carrying out any public official duties since July, when she visited a hospice with Princess Anne. And on that occasion, as we have seen quite frequently over the last 12 months, she did have that walking stick with her, a reminder that there have been those mobility issues certainly increasing over the last 12 months. But in essence, I think the palace and Number 10 are very conscious that for some people at the moment now feels like an unsettling time for this country. When you think about economic pressures, pressures on families, and also some might say political uncertainty. We have literally only just got a new Prime Minister. So to see the Queen there carrying out that constitutional role, even at the age of 96, I think for some across this country, yes, not everyone agrees with a hereditary monarchy, but for some up and down the country, she is still this symbol of stability and continuity. And that's exactly what we again saw her on Tuesday, continuing her duties as we've seen her carry out throughout her 70-year reign.
And Rhiannon, in terms of the senior royals, the members of the family that are either at Balmoral or travelling there, so we understand her 4 children, Charles and Andrew and Edward, are there or on their way there, and their partners, and also Prince William and Harry. But do we know, we understand that Meghan will not be travelling with Harry. What about the Duchess of Cambridge?
Yeah, so we were also told that the Duchess of Cambridge also isn't going to be there. Their 3 children this morning started their new school. You may have seen those pictures of them going for a settling in afternoon yesterday at Lambrook. So I think the decision was made that she wouldn't be making that journey up. And who knows, but subsequently that may have impacted the decision as to whether or not Meghan decided to fly up there. I think it's hugely significant that the family are gathering there increasingly over the last 12 months. I think very publicly we've seen just how much affection they have for the Queen as a great-grandmother, a grandmother, and a mother. And that was abundantly clear throughout the Platinum Jubilee weekend, where for the first time we saw that the Cambridge children really out for any kind of prolonged period of time. There are those wonderful pictures, aren't there, of the Queen on the balcony at Buckingham Palace, talking to Prince Louis, who had his hands over his ears as there was that fly past. The Queen, of course, more than used to seeing many fly pasts during her reign. Many people talk about the fact that she is probably one of the most experienced people when it comes to watching military pageantry. But yes, such a lovely image on the Platinum Jubilee of her reassuring Louis in a way about what was happening. And we've so often seen that. And I think it's been interesting over the last few years to see more softer images of the Queen at times. Certainly around her 96th birthday, a photograph was released of her sitting in front of a window at Windsor Castle. And for her 96th birthday and then for her Platinum Jubilee, I think the messaging was, yes, this is a remarkable head of state that, frankly, most of us can't remember a time when she wasn't Queen. But also, this is a woman who has, throughout her life, been balancing those challenges of carrying out her constitutional duties, getting on with the job in hand, but also making sure that she was there to support her family. And look, there have been difficulties, of course, with the family, certainly in recent years. And of course, back in the 1990s, it was a very difficult time. But yeah, today the family will all be coming together there at Balmoral, where, don't forget, they all have really fond memories of spending time with the Queen in Scotland. It's a very important place for all of them, where they get to kick back in the seclusion of the wildness of the Highlands and spend time together away from the prying eyes of the cameras and enjoy that countryside life. We've seen that in so many home videos of the royal family and photographs. So yeah, I think it's obviously a place that they're very familiar with, and obviously all of them wanting to make what is quite a long journey up to Aberdeenshire to be with the Queen at this moment.
Rhiannon, many thanks. Rhiannon Mills, our royal correspondent there. Well, joining me now is Dr. Anna Hemming, who spent 7 years as a resident in-house doctor at Buckingham Palace, looking after the royal family and the royal household. Very good to talk to you, Dr. Hemming. Well, that statement released by the Queen's medical staff, it says it in the statement, doctors are concerned. She is under medical supervision, but remains comfortable. Just dissect that for us and the decision to release that information.
Well, certainly we didn't release information lightly, and I think we just have to remember that the Queen is a remarkable woman and has been with us for a very long time. So we just have to hope that she's very comfortable and that she is with her family, and they can help her if she can recover. They can help her with that.
Yeah, and that is a calculation, isn't it? Medical confidentiality, privacy, but of course she is Her Majesty the Queen. People want to know. People are worried for her, but the other side of the coin is, of course, you don't want to have an intrusive running commentary.
No, and I think that, for her and for her family and for everybody who goes through this process, there are obviously friends and family that are concerned. And when you're a public profile with such a huge profile, that the nation and most of the world will be concerned. But at the centre of this is somebody who's unwell, and they need the peace and the time and the people around them that they love. So the fact the family is going to be with her now, whatever she's going through, is obviously going to be of much comfort to her.
And she's had a normal slowing down of people as they get into later life over the past few, decades, I suppose.
Well, absolutely. And I think that being 96 and being a full working royal is an incredible job. So, yeah, I'm actually very pleased that somebody has calmed her down a little bit. And yeah, she's been amazing.
I can't ask you. I know, of course, about specific details of your interactions with her. But what was it like to work with her, to help her? What was she like to? What is she like to talk to?
So the Queen and all of those that work with her are an incredible team, and it's amazing to have been part of that and to help many people through their service and maintain their health. So for me, working with that team was wonderful. It was an incredible experience and something that, 7 years of that I will never forget. So it was wonderful. I would never release any information. It's just not what we do.
But there are specific challenges there, as you mentioned, about keeping the show on the road. I'm sure sometimes you have to do running repairs for the royals.
Well, I think like everybody, we have incidences, things happen. None of us are superheroes, unfortunately. So obviously there are things that need to be done in the course of prevention and protection, and making sure that everything that is undertaken by the royal family is safe. So yes, they do have teams in place in order to do that.
When you say making sure that everything is safe, do you mean just from a a medical point of view? Because I've just been talking to a Royal Protection Officer. We know the safety side of that. Where does that interact with the medical team?
Well, I think from a medical perspective, obviously all of the trips, the tours, etc., that the royal family do, that there will be a medical report that is made. But to be honest with you, when you're looking after such an important person and an important family, all of these things just need to be done.
Yeah, I suppose, yes, when you're talking about royal tours, then you've got inoculations, injections, diets, so many other issues.
Absolutely.
Well, Dr. Hemming, very good talking to you. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Anna Hemming there, who spent 7 years working alongside the royal household in Buckingham Palace, looking after their health. And in terms of the Queen's health at the moment, this is what we are hearing, a statement released by Buckingham Palace, the official spokespeople at Buckingham Palace here, saying that doctors are concerned about the Queen's health. Therefore, she has been put under medical supervision at Balmoral after that concern was raised. And as Dr. Hemming was telling us there, she is said to be comfortable. So many statements coming into us, statements of support from the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, who was only there 2 days ago at Balmoral to meet Her Majesty the Queen, making that journey back there today. The senior members of the royal family, who we understand are gathering, either have gathered or are on their way to Balmoral.
Well, let's just update you with what's been happening at Balmoral within the last half an hour or so. We understand Princes Andrew and Edward, the Queen's sons, have arrived at Balmoral to be with the monarch, as has Prince William, the Duke of Cambridge, the Queen's grandson. And of course, after Prince Charles, heir to the throne. Prince Charles, we understand, arrived at Balmoral earlier on today. He has been in Scotland in recent days, so wasn't too far away when that call came that doctors are concerned about the Queen's health. The royal family was informed and the decision was taken that senior royals needed to go to Balmoral to be with the Queen. We understand that the Duke of Sussex is on his way as well. Prince Harry, we are expecting him to arrive at Aberdeen Airport and, like those before him, make that journey to Balmoral. Well, the Queen's former Scottish Communications Secretary, Louise Tate, joins me now. Louise, the Queen today has been described by historian Sir Anthony Selden, I was speaking to him earlier, as a nation's granny. She has always been there, and the world is watching. People are tuning into us today to find out how the Queen is. We watch and we wait, but it's important to remember that she is actually a granny. She's a mama, as Prince Charles calls her, and the family are gathering in Balmoral today. Perhaps you can give us an insight as to what it will be like inside Balmoral. It's a vast estate, it's a big structure, but the royal family and the Queen in particular occupies a smaller compartment, so it will be a very small family gathering in that sense.
Well, as I think I've said before, Balmoral, it is a castle, but it's, in terms of a castle, but it's still quite an intimate space. And I think that because they've spent so much time there as a family together, this will be, it's just like it is a home. It is a home, and they will feel that they are coming to that home, but something that's familiar to them, and they know that that's where Her Majesty is very, very happy and always has been. So that I think that they will feel that they are around her in one of her favourite places at this time.
We're just showing viewers an image that was taken not so long ago, about half an hour or so ago, of Prince William driving his uncle Prince Andrew and Prince Edward into Balmoral. They arrived at Aberdeen Airport a little earlier and drove to Balmoral through those gates, and we assume are now with the Queen. We understand that Prince Harry is on his way. Let's go back to how this all began earlier on this afternoon around 12:30 lunchtime. That statement was released by Buckingham Palace. And Louise, as a communications secretary, what will have gone into that? Because it came as a shock to so many people, because we saw the Queen publicly only on Tuesday inviting the new Prime Minister Liz Truss to form a government. We understand she carried out another engagement later in the day to award a member of her staff with an honour. That was a private matter. You know, we haven't got any pictures of that, but she was very much active until recently. So talk to me about what will have been going on in terms of putting that statement out there and the wording of it. So much thought and care will have gone into it.
Indeed, but I think that given that there was the Privy Council meeting was cancelled, that Her Majesty would not take part in that, and then if the message was to the family to come and join Her Majesty at Balmoral, it would have been very difficult for so many members of the family to make that journey without it being noticed. So I think that it was the right thing to do. It clarified the situation. Inevitably, it'll be seen as a significant move and things will be read into that. But it is a very carefully worded statement, and that's rightly so. And I think that they just tried to avoid speculation as much as they could by giving some clarity, really.
Louise, given that, and given that we know very clearly the Buckingham Palace do not provide a running commentary on anything, least of all the Queen's health, this statement is being seen as significant. When can we expect to hear something else? What kind of update will come? Will there come? Will any updates come? Because I'm just looking at this screen and I'm mindful of the fact that hundreds of thousands, millions of people across the world are going to be watching those gates. Will the palace be mindful of that, or will it be business as usual in terms of communications?
I think that really it will be business as usual. They are not going to give out running commentary. They're not going to follow the news cycle, unfortunately. This will be dictated by events as they happen or don't happen. So we will just have to wait, unfortunately.
Okay, Louise, you're watching and waiting with us, and as somebody who knows the Queen, I can only begin to understand how difficult that is. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us here on Sky News. I'm sure we will speak in the coming hours and days. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, now watching and waiting here at Buckingham Palace as we keep our eyes on the gates of Balmoral Castle. I want to talk now to a professor of British politics and the Constitution at University College London and co-editor of The Role of Monarchy in Modern Democracy, Professor Robert Hazel. Very good to talk to you, Professor Hazel. Now, it's a difficult time for any nation when its head of state is under medical supervision because their doctors are concerned about their health.
Indeed, but this is a contingency which will have long been prepared for. And so people in government, as well as in the palace, will be rolling out those contingency plans. And there are two things that might happen. The Queen might become seriously ill. And if she becomes so ill that she is incapable, through infirmity of body or mind, of performing the royal functions, and I'm quoting now from the Regency Act, then a regent would be appointed to carry out the functions of being the sovereign in her place, and that would be Prince Charles. So that's one kind of contingency plan, which people will have near the top of their minds. The other is, if sadly the Queen is very seriously ill and were to die, then there are very well-rehearsed plans for a very grand royal funeral known as Operation London Bridge, and all that has been planned for years in advance, and it will be the biggest state funeral any of us have seen for a very long time, and possibly in the whole of our lifetimes.
So as you describe it, and as we understand it, there is never a moment, even a moment, when the United Kingdom is without a head of state, either a king or queen or a regent.
That's right. So the moment the Queen dies, Prince Charles becomes king, although formally that would be declared the next day. at a special meeting of the Privy Council known as an accession council. A regency is slightly different in that it has to be formally declared by 3 out of 4 very senior officials. And those are the Lord Chancellor, the Lord Chief Justice, the Speaker of the House of Commons, and the Lord Chancellor. So they will all have been briefed about their role. And if a regency is declared, it can only be done on the basis of evidence, including medical evidence, which will be submitted to them. And if that happens, the declaration is made at a meeting of the Privy Council. And we will all learn then if a regency has been created. And the regent would then be Prince Charles. And he would be regent acting in the name of the Queen, not only of the United Kingdom, but of all the other 14 countries around the world, where the Queen is also head of state. Let us not forget, she's Queen of Australia, Queen of Canada, Queen of New Zealand, Queen of Jamaica, Queen of other places in the Caribbean and in the Pacific.
And Professor Hazel, just give me your assessment of how Her Majesty negotiates this. I mean, it's a rather extraordinary, is it a unique role in terms of the British Constitution and how it has just evolved and the separation of powers?
Well, as everyone acknowledges, she has been an extraordinarily conscientious monarch. She has devoted the whole of her life to public service, worked incredibly hard. The Queen receives state boxes every day of the year, with only 2 exceptions, Christmas Day and Easter Day. Not many people work as hard as she does right through into their 90s. And so she will be remembered not only for her extraordinarily long reign, but also for the extraordinary devotion that she has shown throughout that reign to her public duty. I think I needn't say any more than that. This is very well known. She has been a remarkably conscientious, as well as a remarkably long-serving monarch.
Professor Hazel, Robert Hazel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, let's bring in our Scotland correspondent, James Matthews, who is at Balmoral. And James, within the last hour, senior members of the royal family have arrived, have gone through those gates to be with the Queen. Talk us through what's been happening.
Yeah, about 20 minutes ago, we saw a convoy driven from Aberdeen Airport, driven in the lead vehicle by Prince William. He was in the driver's seat. Next to him was his uncle, the Duke of York, and in the back were Edward and Sophie. So the family gathering is increasing in size. Among those still to arrive, of course, is Harry, who we expect at some point over the coming hours. Prince Charles, he was there from early in the morning. He had actually been due to take part in a royal visit in central Scotland, but that was cancelled, and that was the first inkling that we had that things weren't quite right today. I can tell you the weather is pretty brutal here at the moment, raining extremely heavily. As you can see, it was raining very heavily on Tuesday when we last saw the Queen in the drawing room of Balmoral when she met and appointed the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. She made that Aberdeen Airport to Balmoral journey, and by all accounts, the Queen was in good form. She remarked on the weather, saying to her press secretary and photographer in the drawing room at the time how dark it was in the skies overhead. She's well used to it, of course, and quite enjoys, actually, this part of the world, notwithstanding the weather. She has been coming here for many years. This is a time of year when she and the family enjoy summer holidays together. And it is a place of family gatherings on a day when we are seeing the family come together. That is a well-practiced routine, albeit in happier circumstances through time. They have barbecues, they have sleepovers, grandchildren and great-grandchildren